%26% on the nation report part that the percentage suitable for 12th grader for the subtraction in math. In America, we had everything as an exceptional country, but the 26% sounds exceptional to you? Raise your hand if you think as the country we need to do way better than this. I'm with you. We all need math. For why are so many kids confused by us? It is because only 26% of people are hardwired from that, while 74% are not. After working with thousands of kids, I can tell you this is the case at all. Kids don't understand math because we've been teaching it at the humanist subject. But if we make math human again, it will start make sense again. You're probably wondering, how is math in every human in the first place? So think about it. Math is a human language, just like English, Spanish, and Chinese, because it allows people to communicate with each other. Even in ancient times, people need the language of math to conduct trade, to build a monument, and to measure the land for farming. This idea of math, the language, isn't exactly new. A great philosopher once said, "The laws of nature are written in the language of mathematics." So you see, even Galileo agreed, isn't it? But somewhere along the line, we're taking the language of math with about the real world around us, and we abstract that beyond this recognition, and that's why kids they get confused. Let me show you what it means. You'll see this third grade Californian math standard, and people make sense when 8 years old. Understand the fraction 1/b as the quantity formed by one part when a whole is partitioned into b equal parts. Understand a fraction a/b as the quantity formed by a part of size 1/b. And if you give this description to an 8-year, you probably get a reaction like this. To a math expert, this standard makes sense, but to a kid, it's an absolute torture. I tell this example specifically because the fractions are the foundation to algebra, trigonometry, and even calculus, so kids don't understand fraction in the elementary middle school because it had half-road way to ahead them in the high school. But there's a way to make subtraction simple and easy for kids to understand. Yes, just remember that math is the language and use that to fear damage. For example, when I teach first grader how to add the subtraction, I start with the apple plus lesson. For say yes, 1 apple plus 1 apple, and people often say 2 with the partly correct. Have that include the word as well as with the math of the language, but not just 2, it's 2 apples. Next is 3 pencils plus 3 pencils. You all know that pencil plus pencil is pencils. So everyone, how many pencils? 5 pencils is right, and the key is you include the word. I try to submit with my 5 years old niece in month. After she's added pencils and pencils, I asked her what a 4 billion plus 1 billion. And my aunt overheard in the distance. She scolded and said, "Are you crazy? She's been kindergarten. How's she supposed to know 4 billion plus 1 billion? I'm done it." My niece Vanessa counting looks up and says, 5 billion? And I say, "That's right, it is 5 billion. My aunt stood ahead on that because she didn't expect that from the 5-year. But all you have to do is take a language approach and math become into it is, and easy to understand. Then, I asked her a question that kindergartner definitely not supposed to know. 1/3 plus 1/3, and she immediately answered 2/3. Such as you are wondering, how can she possibly know that when she doesn't know about the numerator and denominator yet? You see, she wasn't thinking about numerator and denominator. She solved the problem this way. and she used 1 apple plus 1 apple as her analogy to understand 1/3 plus 1/3. So even a kindergarten cat at subtraction, you better believe that every third grader can do it as well. Just for fun, I asked her an algebra question. What's 7x squared plus 2x squared? And then the 5-year correctly answered 9x squared. And she did it and the exponent rules to figure that it out. So when the people say that we are either aware or not, it's not true. Math is a human language, so we have all the ability to understand this. We need to take a language approach to math urgently. Because too many kids are locked and there are accents about math, and it doesn't have to be that way. I work with an angry, frustrated high school student, one who couldn't pass the algebra because he only knew 44% of the multiplication task. I've told her that such a kind of weird only knowing the 44% of the alphabet holding me back. She couldn't pass her on public relation and she had no confidence in that. As the result, this teenager had confidence in herself. I've told her, we have to start with the multiplication. Because once you know all of you have with your part, everything gets easier and they will be having a flashback to every ride in Disneyland. What do you think? And she said, okay. But she systematically learned the timetable in 4 weeks, and yes, even a multiplication has the language in better than that. You'll be surprised how many kids don't realize 7 times 3 can be spelled out as 7 times 3, which just means 3 7 times, just like that. So when kids see this way, they quickly realize that their reputation is low and inconvenience, so they glove the memories that 3 7 times, all the way to 21. The further teenager would outreach to dropping out, becoming fluent and confidence in multiplication with game changer. Because for the first time, we can focus on the problem solving instead of counting on the burnt finger. I'm new sis at the corner. When sis figured out that 2 years curly at $445 a month would cost you $10,680, and sis looked at me and disapprovally and said, "It's a police sock, that's expensive." At that moment, not having wonder causing problem for her, but she looks giving a massive problem as they resound to adult. As an educator, it's my duty to challenge kids to be tired. Thoroughly you with this challenge. Our country is stuck at 26% subtraction, and I challenge you to pass the number higher. This is important because mathematical thinking not build your mind. But our kids needed to imagine and develop their future. Meeting this challenge can be simple as apple plus apple. Insist that we teach math the human language, and we will get there sooner rather than later. Thank you.